Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gillcast. My name is Davis Mattek. You can find me on Twitter at Davis Mattek. I'm here reunited with Sammy Reid and Nate Nohling. Nate's grumpy because he hasn't scraped all his data yet. We're recording this.
Davis is a grandpa who wants to record at 5:30 Central Time.
Incorrect. Although, I mean, I would, but it is 7 p.m. Central Time.
The game's in overtime, and Davis is like, "You guys ready to go yet?"
The chances of me staying awake for the end of Sunday Night Football they're just not great. I'm going to be
He has been stressing us all day, Davis. It's like it's kind of ridiculous. You want to make fantasy sports a 9 to 5 job, and it's not.
Enjoy it. What do you have to wake up for? You have nothing on the schedule tomorrow. I promise.
That is not true. You don't know my life, Nate Nohling.
Gotta walk the dog.
On Patriot, and all of a sudden Davis is official. Got to get up early in the morning for work.
Gotta grind, man.
That morning grind.
I gotta grind. So I think this is actually a very rare day. I think all three of us made money on this Sunday. Can you confirm, Nate?
My cash team
the data has not been scraped. Nate doesn't know yet.
Nate doesn't know.
My cash team is bubbling, but I smashed in tournaments, so I'm doing all right.
All right. Well, this will be great because I think.
Can you take the L just to start the show?
We can talk. We'll talk about it, but no, I guarantee you, this is not going to leave with me admitting that I'm wrong about anything. I can just tell you that right now. There's a 0% chance we get to Corey Davis and I go, you know what, Nate, you were right. I was wrong.
Way to set the tone.
So I just need to let you know that. But go ahead and get into cash. Who scored the least amount of points in cash? 217 for me. What do you have, Sammy?
216.68.
Wow, I wrecked you.
Yeah, I had 199.5.
You were under 200? You bitch!
So I think Nate obviously needs to start with what he played in cash.
Yeah, re-examine your process, bro.
So I went Deshaun Watson. Wasn't really in question. I mean, really, it was between Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan for me in cash. Then I went Gio, Kamara, and Tevin Coleman for my 3 running backs. Tevin was the one that was in question, but the reason I went Tevin was just, I mean, highest team total at home.
And apparently you don't watch the games.
At home. I mean, like Matt Ryan rushing 2 touchdowns last week is not going to be a thing. Like, Tevin was in a good spot here. It was hard for me not to go Tevin.
He was definitely in a good spot. I won't even.
Did you see what Christian McCaffrey did to this?
I didn't.
Last week.
Okay, I didn't consider Tevin in cash for even a millisecond, but I would say to you that it's not like you weren't playing like Bilal Powell against the Jaguars.
Josh ADHD.
Tevin was sharp. I'm fine with Tevin. I mean,
well, he wasn't because Ito Smith is still getting like 40% of the backfield snaps there.
But even at 65 to 70% of the rushing work in a game with the highest team total at 5.9K.
But to like not get in Elliott at that third running back spot was pretty bad.
I don't think so. The only other guys that I was considering was like DJ and then or going down to Sonny.
You're right. Considering DJ, but not considering Ezekiel Elliott.
No, I wasn't going to pay up for
1,100 more. I mean, here's the thing about Tevin. He was great when he was like whatever 5.4 or whatever that is. Like, I don't know. What was he? 4.9 or 5?
Now that he's priced like straight up Devonta Freeman, like when's the last time you ever wanted to play Devonta Freeman? Like, I don't think I've ever.
What do you mean he's priced? He's 5.9.
Yeah, he's priced up.
Yeah,
he was $500 more than James White, and he projected to carry 70% of the team's.
No one was playing James White in cash.
A lot.
Did ADHD play James White in cash?
A lot of people played James White.
Who played James White in cash?
In cash?
Please
I
send
bet James White was over 15%.
Send me your username on DraftKings. Send me a friend request if you play James White in cash.
That can't be accurate.
I think a lot of people were.
That is the fishiest. That's the fishiest. And
that's really bad.
I played some James White in GPP, but like,
yeah, I did too.
Like, what's the rationale?
Yeah, I mean, Tevin kind of. I mean, You would not have expected him to get 58% of the team's rushing attempts this week, and he did.
I mean, I would have projected him to get 65 at the absolute max of their backfield work, given what they did with Ito the last week. And given what they do every time when every time under this head coach and this quarterback, they shuffle the running backs in and out. They don't just go one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is not a bell cow situation.
Considering he was at 68% of the rushing work last week, you would expect him to be less than 50 this week?
Yeah.
He's at 65.
Yeah, 65 is right around the number I would project.
Yeah, so 65, I think with the team total that they had, I think Tevin at 5.9 was fine. If he was 6.1, 6.3,
he's like in a complete vacuum when you're just like, oh, Tevin Coleman can do this, this, and this because he has this rushing share. Yeah, in a vacuum he's fine, but in a roster construction sense, I think that was pretty bad.
So yeah, Tevin was the mistake of this week. The one thing about Tevin that I, looking back on, is stupid is just like, I don't play running backs who don't get a bunch of targets in cash, and I played Tevin. Like I should have just played the cheaper Tevin, which was Michelle, and I didn't. My wide receivers, I was pretty solid on all week. There was kind of 4 guys that I was looking at in cash. Corey Davis, Quincy Enunwa, Allen Robinson, or Taylor Gabriel. I ended up with Corey Davis, Enunwa, and Robinson.
Wait, hold on. You mean you did not play Sterling Shepard?
No, I didn't play Sterling Shepard.
I mean, you should just have a donkey brand put on your forehead. You should be like self-excluded from DraftKings for a week.
Nate,
I had like
what up, guys?
I had, I think, 65% Sterling in tournaments, but I did not.
That's like literally the exact opposite of what you should be doing. That's like
wait, you played Corey Davis and not Sterling Shepard.
Yes, Corey Davis was a better play.
I mean, I don't even. What is your deal, man?
There was
like 0% a better play projection wise.
And I like Corey Davis.
Was a better play by far. He projected to get more of his team's workload. He was the number 1 option. Shepard is the number 3 option.
You can't say for certain that he could project for more because we have not seen a game with no Latimer or no Ingram yet.
Sterling Shepard is the number 3 option on his team. You have Odell, you have Saquon.
Yes, if you only go based off the descriptive results of 3 games, yes, you could say that Bart.
He's the number 3 option on that team.
He's not though. I don't even have it up ahead of me right now, but I'm more than confident in saying that Shepard had more targets than Barkley today.
Today he did.
Yeah, given the flow of this game, that makes total sense. And also, I'm not going to buy the descriptive results, which included one 16-target game for Barkley. I don't consider a 16-target game for Barkley predictive of the market share of how the targets would be displayed for the rest of the season.
All right, so Sterling Shepard had 51 air yards this week for a 50% weighted opportunity rating, while Corey Davis led the league in air yards this week with 213 and had a whopper of 7.74.
We're not talking about Corey Davis right now, fella.
You literally just said Corey Davis wasn't a better player than Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard
was based on projection, and he was based on results.
Shepard was the number 1 value play of the whole week.
He was like the first. He was like the first guy I locked in at wide receiver.
That's all right, because there's no way that you can tell me that a number 3 option should be the same play as a number 1 option. People freaked out about the Mariota thing, and it's just not a. We think we're better at judging context than we are. We think that we're better at projecting context than we are.
That's totally true, and you're doing it right now. You are saying
we're actually able to project volume. And there was nothing that could have told you that Sterling Shepard was going to be the number 1 guy on that team.
How about the fact that half their offense was hurt?
Except last week, you saw what they did, right? They put Lattimore on Julio Jones, and they rolled coverage over there. And Calvin Ridley, the number 2 option, 8. Like, these coaches watch film. This is what they do. And it was just so predictable that Sterling Shepard was going to eat in this game.
Nate, you're standing in the middle of the forest and saying, "What are all these trees?"
Sterling Shepard was a fine play. He was right there behind.
He was the number 1 first guy get him in play.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
He was the first guy.
I love Corey Davis. I played Corey Davis in cash last week. It was a terrible time, and that kind of took me off him.
Yeah,
I like Corey Davis.
This week, Corey Davis was not a bad play. I think he was probably like a really good leverage GPP play, considering how many people were going to have Allison, Boyd, and Shepard. but he would have never in a million years gotten into my cash team. Like you're not quantifying risk properly. Like when a quarterback admits that he's injured and that he's having nerve pain, like I'm just not trying to I'm not trying to attach myself to that.
No, I'm playing the volume. I honestly believed going into this week that the receivers that I was looking at that were above Sterling Shepard in the same price range, I would have had A-Rob as a better play. I would have had Corey Davis as a better play, and I would have had Doug Baldwin as a better play.
I mean, if you would have played
Baldwin,
if you would have played Doug Baldwin today, I would have just sent you a friend. I would have just sent you a friend request on DraftKings.
you would have been like laggard, just like inviting him like 50 times a week.
Yeah, I hate it when you get the number one option on the team.
But this is a dude who's like got a bum hamstring and comes in and out of games. Like, I think you could potentially be a little bit too obsessed with just stripping everything down exactly to the numbers, because the person, by the way, that you base a lot of this off of, we all respect him a lot, Josh Hermsmeyer, but Josh does not play DFS, and he will admit he will freely admit that.
When you actually look at the numbers, what you can project from a week-to-week basis is the volume and is the opportunity. What are the things that are most sticky? It's not based on the prior team's defense and what they did to the prior team's usage.
Nate, you got to understand something about football. Football is way more of an art than a science. You need to learn how to
football is a little bit of a feel game, man. And if you don't have that feel, it's going to leave you behind. And
you got no feel, man. You got a big fastball, but you got no touch on that changeup.
There will certainly be trends that you will be out ahead on. There will certainly be weeks where completely disregarding all narrative and all contextual information will give you an edge. No denying that. There will be weeks where you get someone in that is 2% owned, who is like in a smash volume spot, but there's no denying that football daily fantasy is a little bit of a feel game.
It's a lot of a feel game, IMO.
Yeah. I'm saying that Sterling Shepard is the number 3 offensive share target on his team. Saquon.
Right, so what 3 receivers did you actually play?
I told you. I played Corey Davis, Quincy Enunwa, and Allen Robinson.
All right. I mean, I don't have an argument against Enunwa or Robertson. Like I liked Enunwa. I just I don't know. How many targets did he even end up getting?
Wait, you like Enunwa, but you hated. He had 8 targets, 4 for 66.
Yeah. 4 for 66 sounds about what you would think he would get probably.
Now he plays a lot in the slot, right? So he's not like generally matched up on like Boye or Ramsey, etc. But like this is still Jacksonville's defense. It's still the Jets on the road.
Right. I excluded Enunwa when I ran.
Yeah, he was 4.3
projections today.
He was 4.3, and I thought Enunwa was going to see. He saw 8 targets at 4.3 with his talent. I don't know. I'm fine with that. Enunwa play at 4.3. I obviously would have rather gotten up to Shepard. Shepard was a better.
Could have just been an alpha like me and played Gabriel.
That is super alpha, by the way.
I liked Gabriel. Gabriel was a fine play, but
you didn't feel it though, because you were like, the math says that Enunwa is going to get like 0.7 more targets, so like clearly you got to get him in.
I already had A-Rob. I didn't want A-Rob and
well, Gabriel is the alpha Bears receiver though.
Gosh, you are so like.
Nate, you need to crack a Red Bull, bro. You need to loosen up a little bit.
We're recording 4 hours before we should be, and you're making like.
Oh, he already has a Red Bull open, Sammy. So what wide receiver so did you have Ebron at tight end?
Yeah, I think if you didn't play Ebron, that was fish.
Did you also have Ebron, Sammy?
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys both played the Bears at defense?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those were like no-brainer, you're bad if you didn't do them decisions.
I started my lineup with Gio, Shepard, Ebron, Bears. And then
I locked those 4 plus another guy in when I ran projections.
Yeah, and then Allison when it became clear that Cobb was not going to play.
Allison, by the way, almost had like a very, very good game.
I didn't watch any of it, did he?
He had like a Rodgers special, like a 40-yard touchdown to the pylon, and he just couldn't, just the defender kind of just got a hand in, and then he got concussed like soon after.
Sammy, are you serious going to tell me that, like, I don't understand why we're so excited about a third option on a team and jamming him, like saying that he's the lock of the lock on the slate.
Are you talking about Shepard or Allison?
Yeah, Shepard. Allison is different.
He can't let the Shepard thing go.
I can't let the Shepard thing go. He's literally the third offensive option on his team.
But I mean, how many, like, weren't you projecting this game to have a lot of plays ran in it? Because you should have.
Seen the Saints defense? Have you not seen what's going on with the Saints defense?
I'm not saying that Shepard was a bad play. Shepard was a great play. But I'm saying when you guys look at number one options, like clear number one options as Corey Davis, Quincy Enunwa, Allen Robinson, and stuff like that, and say that Shepard, because he got 100% of the targets, he was 10 of 10 this week with a touchdown. All of the variants went
almost
his
at
way.
2. He went out at the 1.5 late
All
night.
of his variants went his way, and he had 25 points. Like, literally everything went right for Shepard this week. And
he went out at the 1 yard line. It didn't go right. He could have had 6 more.
He could have 32.
Yeah. That's what I had him projected for, is 32. He actually came in under my projection.
I had him with a weighted opportunity ranking of 2, Nate. Just flat 2.
200%.
I just don't get it.
Davis. So you spend your weekend like talking to a bunch of like your like high stakes sharp friends. How many of them played Shepard?
There was not a debate. Like as early as like Wednesday, everyone who you think is good, who plays for a lot of money, Shepard was the first person they put in. There was never a discussion about it.
So Nate, you should take that. All the sharp guys who play like 5-6 figures a weekend are playing Shepard and locking him. You should examine your process to say, what am I doing that these guys aren't? And
there's
why aren't I
there's
there?
a chance that people who are playing for millions of dollars probably have a slightly better idea of what makes a good NFL DFS lineup.
You just gotta suck down the ego a little bit, bro.
I'm not even trying to
based thing. It's like literally you cannot tell me that a third option on a team needs to be jammed in there at a higher percent.
I can't tell you that because
you're way overconfident in your projections.
You can't. I mean, you have to have some contextual opinion, or you should honestly just do your fantasy points projections based off of. You should give a league average. Like you should figure out whatever the league average for carries, the league average for targets is, and you should just do your projections that way. Because you can't have both.
Well, you actually can. You can take all the numbers and throw it into a statistical model and look at what's actually sticky and look at certain things which actually do help, like quarterback.
So what does your model do for defenses then?
It does look at defenses, and
I'm asking you what it does. Because how would your model have adjusted for how bad the Saints defense is and how many plays they're giving up?
So I project out plays per week, and plays per game is based on a bunch of different things. It takes into account the Vegas team total. It takes into account the historical plays per game that the defense and the offense is allowed, and it looks at all of those, and it comes up with a projection of basically pace of play. Looks at plays. Then I look at a volume projection, and I look at target projection per come up with a target share. Then project out team targets. Then look at average ADOT for the receiver. Have an ADOT.
So how much is
air yards? Project out what I think efficiency is. At the end of the day, defense is a lot closer to 0 than everybody else thinks.
No, I agree, but it's all about play. It's about the plays ran, and this game projected to have, if not the most, a lot of plays ran, and that's
what I projected to have the most plays. New England, I expected to have the most plays this week. Then the Chargers, then Green Bay, then Atlanta, then Philly.
Nate, when you say historical, what do you mean historical?
For plays specifically, it mostly takes in it weighs the current season way heavier than anything else. It uses a little bit of historical, but most of the time, so when you put everything in, different stats matter differently. So when it comes to quarterback efficiency, very little of quarterback efficiency is weighted from this season and most of its career. I think what I've found is career pacer is actually like one of the most, when you're just looking at QB efficiency, it's actually better just to input their career pacer based on those numbers than anything else single season. Single season, the variance is so high.
Okay.
So when it comes to plays per game, like projection on plays, 2015, what New England did does not really affect much of what 2018 is going to do for them. Where 2015, Tom Brady's efficiency matters into 2018 projections.
So, I mean, I would assume that your model then is probably having a very hard time with how different teams are playing this season then. That would honestly be one of my assumptions as to why Corey Davis keeps popping up as optimal for you, because Tennessee's still not running a ton of plays. They're obviously going to get a boost after today, but teams are just scoring more. Teams are more efficient. And I think when
Tennessee was in the bottom 6 from a plays projection standpoint, it was just that when you project Corey Davis to have that high of a target share at his average ADOT, he projects to have one of the higher air yards from week to week basis. And at 5.3, it really doesn't matter what defense he is. Unless you want to project a historical inefficiency for him, he's going to come out to be a good play week after week if he's not going to be priced above 6K.
I got to figure out what
he led the league in air yards this week.
Julio Davis, they call him.
I mean, he did score his first career touchdown today, right?
Davis, he had 213 air yards with an 0.87 Whopper this week. What price would that not be a good play? Anything?
I mean, I'm not even trying to talk about the results. I'm just trying to go back to whatever it was when we were setting lineups 8 hours ago and saying, like, I don't think there's any way I ever would have rostered Corey Davis over Sterling Shepard. I don't even know, like, maybe if someone laid me odds against them in head to head, like you play Corey Davis, I get Sterling Shepard and I will lay you 1.2 to 1. So like I get extra money. I would have played Corey Davis.
Yeah, considering Corey Davis is the number one option on the team, wouldn't have been close for me.
I mean, I guess the difference is that I feel very confident in my knowledge of football. I know these teams. I feel very confident in that, and I feel like I can weigh the context of knowing what happens when an NFL team misses 2 of its 5 starting pass catchers.
Yeah. You're putting more ego behind your knowledge of context and defense, where I'm saying,
wow, he roasted me, Sammy. He
came. No,
back
I'm saying we actually don't know that. So what we do know is who is the number one target on the team. That's easy for us to figure out. A caveman can look at the numbers and tell you who the number one target is on the team. That's what we know, and that's what I'm going to make my predictions based off of, and not based on the things that we don't seem to know and we continue to learn week after week. Do you remember for years when people used to say that Todd Gurley was not good at football, and people would confidently say that and they would make predictions based on that? And it took people years to get on board with the fact that Todd Gurley actually, when he got the volume, is good at football. Like, I mean, I'm not going to spend time evaluating talent.
Oh, I was definitely one of those people, and I don't care. Like,
okay, well, you take the L's all over the place.
Put Todd Gurley back with what's his, like,
Jeff Fisher.
Like, no, I'm trying to think of like another terrible coach. Yeah, like you.
I'm going to project volume and make my plays based on that.
So now that you heard from the person with the worst score out of all of us, we're going to move on to Sammy, and he's going to tell you what he had in cash.
I actually do want to hear this, Sammy.
So, I mean, I think my cash lineup was pretty straightforward. I mean, I told you the guys I locked in at first were Shepard, Allison, Gio, and Ebron, and the Bears defense. And then it was just a matter of like making things fit. And so I really like Sony Michel, just with all the injuries in the New England backfield. I knew he wouldn't get a ton of targets, but the fact that he saw 3 last week, I thought was slightly encouraging.
How many did he see today?
Oh, probably 0.
I loved Michel as a play, and I started out the week thinking he was a lock, but moved off of him.
Yeah, I did too. And there was a case for not playing him. I didn't think he was a lock, but
I don't think he got 1 target.
Yeah, you know, just in the context.
I mean, when you win like 35-0, like there's a good chance there's no reason to pass to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he smashed, and you know, I ended up going at running back him, Gio, and then Kamara, and I actually wasn't sold on Kamara. I do not like playing the Saints outside of the Superdome or Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever. If they're in a dome, even if they're on the road, I'm great. But like on the road, I was not sold on Kamara. It's just like salary, the way it worked out. I had room, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. So that ended up working well, but I don't want to like take a huge W for that because I wasn't like that pumped on
right.
Kamara lucked out at the end too. I mean, I had him.
Yeah, he ran well.
Yeah, he had. Yeah, but he actually was due for touchdown regression his way this season, which is interesting because last year he was such an over efficiency in this year.
Do you think that it's going to be fish to play Kamara at these insane prices when Ingram comes back? Like, do you think that they're just like, all right, yes, Ingram, 100%. You're in on third down sometimes. Ingram, you're in on the goal line all the time. and all of a sudden, Kamara is basically expensive Marcus Colston.
That's what I thought last year, and Kamara continued to smash. So
Nate probably rostered Kamara 0 times all of last season. just waiting for him to stop scoring a long touchdown.
Yeah, I finally gave in like week 9. I was like, okay, it's just happening. Like,
you know who Nate actually did fade like a bunch of times, who got completely bailed out like 4 times was Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt had like a bunch of bad games where he had like a 65-yard touchdown, and every week I'd be like, Nate, how's my butt taste?
and now who's
so yeah, and then at receiver I went Julio, Allison, Shepard, and obviously Shepard was a lock, Allison was a lock, and I just thought Julio in this game. I mean, of course he's like allergic to the end zone. He just refuses.
It's like getting hilarious. It's like pretty hilarious at this point,
dude. It's like there's a magical force field around the goal line that like just rejects him. He's like a positive charge, and the end zone is also a positive charge, and when they get together, it's just boom. You can't.
I don't actually ever want him to score.
Yeah, it is funnier the longer.
You want it to be like DeGrom winning 9 games. Like that's what you want Julio to be. And he still smashed. He ran super good. He got like a 40-yard catch at the end. That was DS. That was awesome.
Davis, is there a point where you actually believe that Julio just might not have the like requisite ability to score touchdowns? Because his size profiles to be like everything about him projects to be an above-average touchdown scorer.
I mean, honestly, it could just be one of those things where like football, it's such a weird game that we can't ever be confident in the sample sizes. It could just be, I mean, maybe he's had conversations with the offensive coordinators like, hey, I really want to be used in this way in the red zone because this opens up like maybe
I would really like for you to just not throw me the ball near the
maybe he's like the least selfish dude ever when it gets in the red zone and he knows he's getting double teamed, so he'll do this I don't know. I would say that before I knew like a lot more about analytics of football, like maybe like 3 seasons ago, I probably would have disparaged Julio. I probably would have been like, this loser can't score touchdowns, but now I just think it's funny. Sammy, your lineup was what I had when I woke up on Sunday morning.
Yeah, and you made a swap. Talk a little bit about that.
So I played another cheap wide receiver. I played Sterling Shepard, Geronimo Allison, and Taylor Gabriel to get Ezekiel Elliott in the flex, because the more I looked at it, I was just like, I don't trust Odell Beckham. I don't trust Julio Jones. I don't trust Jarvis Landry. I don't trust any of these dudes to get the amount of volume that I am. I am for certain that Elliott, Barkley, or Melvin Gordon would get. All 3 of them would have fit in that lineup I had, depending on the quarterback I went with. And the quarterback I ended up going with was Drew Brees. So I scored I scored 217 in cash with 8.88 points from Drew Brees.
Brees wasn't even on my like list, I don't think.
So if I play,
that was weird. That was a little weird. Why didn't you just go with Matt Ryan?
When you are talking to people who are like have a lot more skin in the game than you do, and who like you're exchanging information or whatever, if all of these people are like, no, Brees is the play, like sometimes that just influences your decision making, Yeah. And that can happen good or bad. And this, like, I would not have felt confident going 100% Gabriel, which I did do, had I not been privy to. Right. Because I basically what I said is I was like, I'm trying to get to Boyd because I don't feel that comfortable with Gabriel. And a couple of my friends are basically just like, no, Gabriel, like, he's fine. I
thought Gabriel was very sketch, and obviously he smashed. I had a decent amount in tournaments, so I'm not going to say I didn't like him, but like in cash, I was like, dude, he's Mitchell Trubisky's number 2/3 option. I don't know. I know he's been getting targets the last couple of weeks, but in cash, I was very suspect.
A big thing for me, obviously the Miller injury is kind of what drew my attention to it, but I'm still pro Nagy. Like, even though the offense has been kind of middling for 3 weeks, I'm still like, if you look at what they're doing on the scripted plays, they have a good offense in shape. The architecture for like a really good Rams-esque offense is there. And then the second is, they have like very clearly what you can tell are Taylor Gabriel plays. Like they have formations and they have plays that are like, okay, we would like to get him the ball where there's no defender within 4 yards of him.
Like those touchdowns were definitely manufactured to him.
Yeah,
right, they had
almost like the Tyreek usage, just in a different. It's obviously not the same skill set as Tyreek.
I would actually say it's more like how they're using Watkins. Like they literally just have these plays that are designed to get Watkins the ball moving left or right with no one around him.
But Nagy is one of those like #sharp coordinators that I actually trust. So like, I actually am on board with like the more I thought about it, the more as I was watching the game, the more I should have gone A-Rob and Gabriel. I was a little bit concerned about it because I didn't want to tie that much of my cash equity to Trubisky's arm and his decision making. But I don't know, Gabriel, like he just gets used all over the field where he's going to get his targets, and his targets are high.
Completion. And that's the thing is if you get the good combination of a cheap guy you want is a guy who does get some of those screen touches. So like, he's not getting you zero, but that he also gets the 40-yard targets. Like this is like, who is that Arizona Cardinals wide receiver? JJ Nelson that everyone played last year. Kind of like the same thing. Like he would get a couple screen passes, but then he would also get like the deep shots when they would take them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was just bummed watching
that example because JJ Nelson is bad, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Gabriel's good or not. Like clearly he ran like God to have whatever 35 DraftKings points or whatever. Like he might not score 2 touchdowns rest of the way.
For 3.9, I mean he's like at like 8-9x. Like that's just fire.
Like he got to like 13. I remember he got like a 30-yard catch and got to like 12 or 13, and I was like, smash Deo. Like I'm feeling good.
Yeah, he had 7 targets and he turned it into 2 touchdowns and 7 receptions.
Right.
So with 104 yards.
So he's like Corey Davis, but like if Corey Davis was good.
Corey Davis is just the cheap new copy.
The thing about Nate is that he doesn't even know that I was like a Corey Davis fan before Nate even saw his name in a database because he was an amazing college prospect when he was at Central Michigan.
Right?
Yeah, Central Michigan. So he was in the MAC, and he just was like a smack. Like he was a play in college DFS back when it existed before, like 4 years ago.
That's hot.
Did you have any DeAndre Hopkins today, Davis?
My best lineup, actually, I had a GPP lineup that had 245. That was like the stack of that game that had Watkins and Kiki Cutie, or Watson and Kiki Cutie and Hopkins.
Yeah, my best. I mean, unfortunately, I had like 70% Will Fuller in tournaments, so the Will Fuller injury hurt. But yeah, my best lineup on DK had 250, and it included.
Oh, but I needed to berate Sammy real quick for saying that he didn't think Kamara was a lock.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a lock.
He gets like 10 targets at the running back position, and every time he touches the ball, he can turn any one of those into a touchdown. Like
I thought that Zeke and Melvin Gordon were the cash plays.
I get Melvin. So I don't get Zeke. I don't get the Zeke thing. Talk to me more about the Zeke. He just doesn't get targets.
What do you mean? Nobody else on that team gets touches.
Nate, this should be like you should be banging the drum for getting. He was 7,700 at home against a bad run defense with 22% of the team's targets. He's the only thing they use at the goal line. Like everything you say is good in a player, you were like, oh yeah, smash.
Dude, and they give like no touches to anybody else. Like Allen Hurns and Gallup get like 2 targets a game.
Rod Smith gets like 2 carries, and then they're like, all right, Zeke for 8 more carries in a row.
All they do is give the ball to Zeke. That's all they do. It's a machine.
Well, Dak has a decent amount of the rushing attempt share. Rod Smith, Tavon Austin all take some touches from.
Oh my God! Don't bring Tavon Austin.
Tavon has like 8 targets over like 8. He has like 8 interactions through 3 games before he got hurt today.
Okay, but I'm like looking at it, and I don't know. I only had one lineup with Zeke, and I was like trying to figure out why I missed on Zeke. And the more I'm looking at it,
because apparently you're not looking at how Dallas filters their touches the right way if you're worried about Tavon Austin.
I'm not worried about Tavon Austin. I was just telling you those are the 4 people who would take rushing attempts.
I will say this. If you look at projections, the stuff that we have here at RotoGrinders, the blitz projection, shout out there at Cardi. They're the number one thing that I look at, but also like other sites around the industry, like all the ones with paid subscriptions, like good projections, they all had Zeke as like a top 3 value on the whole
He had the
slate.
lowest of the target share from any one of those top price running back. He had a lower target share projection than Saquon Barkley, lower target share projection than Melvin Gordon, much lower than Alvin Kamara.
Well, dude,
than David Johnson.
Dude, let me get in Drew Brees. So like clearly it was the play.
I just think Zeke felt to me, if I was going to pay that high, I would have gone up to Saquon or gotten up to Kamara.
What I actually had, like pretty close to before lock, I think I even put this in our chat, was Ryan Gordon.
Okay, yeah. I liked Gordon too.
That's what I thought you were going with.
Or maybe it was Ryan Barkley. I mean, I think either one.
Oh yeah, it was Barkley, and I said I wouldn't go with Barkley and Shepard in cash. Like you don't want to be overexposed.
What did Barkley even get?
Barkley got
Barkley
like
did
20.
Get a ton of He didn't get a ton of work. I think this was his lowest
22
share yet.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, like I think that would have been like I think even with Ryan's score, I think it even probably would have even come close to evening out.
But MG3 was at 34, Zeke was at 37, Kamara was at 44. Like those guys kind of smashed Barkley up.
Yeah, I mean,
Barkley almost got to Sterling Shepard. Let's just say it that way.
Barkley had his lowest offensive usage of
lowest offensive usage of the year because it was all filtering towards Sterling Shepard.
But I just put Zeke like below Kamara, below Gordon, below Barkley, all per dollar.
He was, but he was cheaper. And actually, I would say Zeke is very similar. Actually, I would say Zeke, if you had me guess the rest of the way, he would have a higher percentage of his team's touches than Gordon will because they're really using Eckler now. Like Eckler's a real part of their offense.
I agree with that. Absolutely. I think Zeke will touch the ball more on a percentage basis than Melvin Gordon.
I mean, do either one of you guys want to like talk about any other defenses? Like, did you even think about wavering from the Bears for a second?
I didn't think about getting off the Bears cash, but I thought there were other plays in tournaments. I think
I played the Packers in FanDuel cash because FanDuel is just so much easier.
Looser. Yeah.
Like we're not even talking about FanDuel. I swept FanDuel. Like, I mean, FanDuel is just so insanely easy. And the Packers, so I had a decent amount of Packers in GPP, and they ended up with a shutout and 23 points. But they were 3.5 on DraftKings, whereas the Bears were 2.6. And they were just like, if you didn't play the Bears in cash, it's like, you need to re-examine. Like, they were just the play.
Yeah, I had some Colts in GPP just because they were $400 cheaper. Deshaun Watson as much.
Me too.
I had some Colts. I actually had some Titans in GPP. Nate, big Titans fan you are.
Dude. When you get number one options, who's gonna? I mean, you're insane. You're like.
Hey, by the way, I guess we usually save this for the point where what did we learn today? Mariota is fast as hell. I watched some of that game. He is insanely fast. He jumped off the screen to me. I'm watching 4 screens, and I just see this dude darting around, and I'm like, dude, is that Taywan Taylor? No, dude, it's Mariota.
This is coming from someone who apparently did not watch any college football when Mariota was there.
I'm 0% college football.
Dude, he was Mariota was I don't even. He was
Vic?
He was a little Vic when he was at Oregon. He was amazing. Yeah. But with even a more efficient offense, honestly.
But I'm back on the Titans. Mariota jumped off, and he threw the ball well.
Something I learned is that when the Patriots have a good offensive game plan and don't run on second and long, they're going to keep blowing teams out.
Yeah.
Something I learned is just no matter how much rushing attempts I think a running back's going to get, you cannot play running backs who don't get a bunch of targets in cash, and that was Tevin. Tevin was a mistake.
That's sharp. Aaron Jones. I had 20% Aaron Jones in GPPs because you want to get ahead of this.
I just kind of think that's bad because his best case scenario is 12 touches, right?
Nah, I was on the narrative. I was on the Aaron Rodgers press conference narrative where they were going
to. That's being an idiot. Yeah,
this is fish.
I'm not defending.
You couldn't project him for more than a 5% target share.
Do your projections take into account the press conference? No, they don't. Historical usage, not this week's Thursday press conference. You need to add that in your model, mate.
I need people to know that I do not agree with Sammy on this and that he's an idiot.
So Aaron Jones, moving forward, you guys, it's happening. I think it's happening.
How many touches did he actually get? Let me look at that.
I think he got 11 rushes.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, he got 11 rushing attempts for 34% of his team.
Do you want to admit that Tyler Boyd is like a legitimate good NFL wide receiver?
I've never said that Tyler Boyd wasn't. It was just last week in comparison to Corey Davis, he was a worse play.
I mean, I think he only had like 28. So.
Oh, yeah, are we using results-based analysis to determine things?
I mean, he got more targets. He got more targets.
Stick our finger in the wind and make our bets based on that.
He got more targets.
You guys, by the way, we're kind of burying the lead. We kind of moved on when I wasn't ready. Aaron Jones also had a target.
Oh,
just throwing it out there.
I mean, probably came after Geronimo was concussed, though.
True.
Wait, Sammy, what are you looking at with Aaron Jones? He had like 35% of his team's rushing attempts.
I was trying to get out ahead of the game, man. I was trying to get out ahead of it. You can't wait until stuff happens to like jump on stuff. You got to like be ahead of it, Nate. That's how you make money.
So but, like, it was a literal even split with Jamal Williams.
Well, yeah. I mean, that the press conference led me astray. I thought that would be different, but it's going to be different moving forward. I'm back on him next week.
Something we should probably look out for with them is that if Geronimo is like actually concussed, Ty Montgomery might have to move back to the slot, and so it could just be like straight up Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams.
Be hot.
No, dude. If Ty moves back to the slot, I'd be all over Ty.
As a running back price for like $5K? Why do you even say this stuff, man?
He'd get 10 targets.
There are running backs who will get 10 targets and also 20 rushing attempts. And Nate, you've sent wide receiver and flex lineups for your cash like prelim a couple times the last week. And I need you to know how bad that is. It's like a really good tournament strategy, and it's really bad in cash. It's not a way to maximize your floor.
It's not a way to maximize your floor. You're right. But if you actually care about scoring points on DraftKings, in today's NFL, wide receivers are a better way to do that.
I mean, okay, yes. If you ran the numbers, you would definitely find out that wide receivers score more PPR points on average, that more wide receivers score over 15 DraftKings points on average, but that you don't know which wide receivers those are going to be before the game start, whereas you have a very good idea of which running backs will account for what PPR points.
Yeah, I would agree. If you make your projections based off of like defenses and try to predict usage based on press conferences, you won't get on the white wide receiver.
You can't. You don't lump me in with Sammy.
If you want to project wide receivers based on their actual usage, and if you have a very regimented projection where you're actually looking at target share, looking at average depth of target historically, and then project your numbers based on that, you can get a pretty good share of opportunities from the wide receiver position that I think in today's day and age in the NFL, it's the amount of rushing attempts versus passing attempts that I'd want. I don't know. To me, it's all about targets. And I think in the past, running back in the flex was like a jam 'em in. I think more and more that you're going to find wide receivers that are underpriced for the usage that they get. If we're going to have a week next week, if we're going to get Anula, Allen Robinson, and Corey Davis continuing to be under 6K, they're better plays than the running backs that we're paying 5K and plus for.
There you go.
I agree with that. But how do you just to kind of get this to one subject, how do you guys account for the change in the NFL this year? Obviously, the NFL is scoring a ton more points.
I don't have the answer yet, but something's got to change. Every week, people are scoring like 200 in cash, like no problem.
I think it's those cheap wide receivers, man. We're seeing more receiver volume and more stuff through the air, but it's not
more teams are passing and more teams are distributing their targets more evenly and not just really targeting one guy.
Correct. So when you have these receivers that are like super expensive and then these receivers that are super cheap, there's a their projection, I think, should be closer than their pricing dictates right now.
I would agree.
I think that's where the value is.
At the end of the day, if you pull up the top 10 DraftKings output week after week after week, you're going to find maybe 2 running backs, maybe 3 running backs littered through. And those running backs that are in the top 10, in the top 20, are going to be the running backs that are basically used as wide receivers, are going to be the Alvin Kamaras, the Christian McCaffreys, the guys like that get 10-plus targets of their team. You're not going to find these 25 carry guys that we used to get in DraftKings. Like, they're just not a play. It's not how today's NFL works anymore. And I think the old way that we used to think about it, I don't think 4 wide receivers is as fish as you think. It's a higher variance approach, but the NFL is a higher variance game these days. So if you go on a higher team total and you get a good amount of plays, you're going to get targets from those wide receivers as long as you don't. I don't know.
I agree with you. It's just that's really embracing variance, and that's not a very good strategy for cash games. It's, in fact, a bad strategy for cash games.
Right. But I think in GPPs, I mean, I've always been a guy who
you should pretty much always be going 4 wide receivers in GPPs now, unless there's like truly like a bunch of running back locks in a week.
Yeah. And I think it's just exasperated by the way the landscape is right now.
It is crazy though. Like a lot of like, quote unquote conventional wisdom about NFL, like about seasonal fantasy, about daily fantasy is like very wrong now just because teams are scoring so much and passing so much.
Well, that's exactly right. And so much of it is like adapting quickly, understanding what's going on with the game and adapting quickly as opposed to holding things that were true last year or the year before or the 4 years that you've been playing DFS. Like, things change. They're cyclical, just like the market, just like Nike stock, all that stuff. You got to.
No, Nike stock's not a cycle. That's just an upward climb.
Trubisky GOAT, man.
Is that what you learned this week?
I just learned Trubisky GOAT, man. He saved me in my GPP lineups. I had a profitable week.
I had 0% Trubisky. That's like my big regret.
You guys told me that 200 was the cash line. My cash team put up 199.5 and I profited.
I'm like mad you profited, honestly.
I profited not only
you should have lost.
My tournament's team smashed.
You should have lost.
I'm on
Nate.
2x.
Yeah, you should have been minus this week. No offense.
Yeah, offense intended from me.
When you have 70% Corey Davis and everybody else in the field plays him at 2% because they think they know how to.
What about if you have 100% Taylor Gabriel and he's only 5%?
Was he only 5%?
In cash, probably less in tournaments. I didn't really look. I don't really look at stuff during, like, I'm just following the games.
Yeah, same here. Like, I haven't had a chance to digest all that.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me do this. Let me bring up the giant $25 double up.
That's the contest I leave pulled up and that I sweat like percentages from.
Let me
195 was the cash line in the single entry.
I don't know. ADHD said it. Julio was only 7.5%.
I mean, yeah, people like that should not be surprising to you. People just do the opposite. Like they just whatever happened last week, it will happen this week.
What was Shepard in that?
Shepard was 67.8%.
Yeah, it's not a great move when you're 32%. You're fading 68% of the field.
Geronimo,
this might have been a bad
30%.
play solely because of the ownership. If I would have known his ownership was going to be 70% in cash.
Well, what did you think it was going to be? Are you that bad at reading what other people are doing?
Kamara was only 55. The Bears were 45%.
Okay, yes. There's a difference between someone being $9,600 and a wide receiver being $4,900.
The Bears were $2,600 and were the lock of the lock, and they were 45% in cash.
I mean, people will do anything they can to get off defenses, though. That's not the same thing.
Yeah. Defense is like a whatever position.
And like the biggest defensive variance.
Even though I might have thought he was a worse play in cash games, if you're fading 68% of the field,
if you think it's close and one guy's 2% owned and one guy's 68% owned, you're an absolute dongfish if you take the 2% owned guy.
Well, here's
based
the thing.
on the overall range of outcomes in NFL.
Here's the thing you can do with that, Nate, is like in your double ups and 50-50s, go more chalky. And then in head-to-heads, embrace the variance. Yeah, if you want to go that way and get all your Corey Davis.
No, I think that's the opposite.
Do you?
Yeah, because you want to just like in head-to-head, like in head-to-heads, you're gonna have a lot of like 1v1s or whatever, anyways. So and if you think you're better at that, then take the chalkier guy in the head-to-heads, and then in the double ups, if you have the 2% owned guy and he outscores the 68% owned guy by 3 points, like you're basically locking up a cash.
I feel like you're like giving reverse implied odds though in that scenario, because if your 2% guy doesn't hit, you're like done in all your 50-50s, like all of them.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
yeah, that is true.
Or
yeah,
in cash,
okay.
you can still come back from that, I think, in some ways. So.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, overall.
Let me think about this more when I'm not like drinking half a bottle of wine.
Made more money than Nate today. He just put it in our group chat. Yeah.
Did you include the bet that you have to pay me? Remember when you bet me that Corey Davis was going to see 8 targets like a fish?
Oh yeah. Even with that, I still made money.
Remember my PayPal?
Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't take that one, by the way.
Yeah, feel free to send my PayPal.
I'll send it to your. I think that's a great way to end the show. Sammy, what did you learn? Did you learn to follow Aaron Rodgers' press conferences?
Yeah, I mean, just keep writing the press conference narrative, and you're gonna profit. Easy game.
Easy game. Nate, you want to send off?
Play Corey Davis and cash if he's going to continue to be under 6K.
Play Taylor Gabriel and cash if he's going to keep being under 4K. Be an alpha. Don't be a Nate.